you on behalf of the El Centro Elementary School District. My name is Marco Arellano. I'm here with Jose Amador that will be joining me shortly on our presentation for today, which is on understanding Google Classroom. And we hope today that you're able to get a better understanding of what your child or children are getting at home when it comes to Google Classroom from every single class in our district. So today we're going to cover a few topics. First of all, getting into Google Classroom, being able to navigate through the platform, understanding what each of those things is or are, and being able to look at the assignments that your child is being assigned. Hopefully we can answer some of the questions or most common questions that have come up and get better results when it comes to submitting those assignments that are being brought in by our teachers. So there's also a lot of material that's being sent out in our Google Classroom. So I'll share my screen when it comes to what it looks like in Google Classroom Live, as well as on the slides. So a couple more things. Again, I'm gonna spend a little bit more time when it comes to submitting those assignments. It's been brought to our attention that a lot of our students are completing some assignments, but not necessarily submitting. So I will share that information with you and show you how to check if your child is actually submitting those assignments. Also, making sure that their assignments are completed. So we're gonna jump into that. And I might sound a little repetitive when we go into our slides, just because I have some screenshots, and I'm gonna go into the live session of a Google Classroom so you can actually see what it's like. First of all, logging into Google Classroom. There are different ways you can actually log in. So the most common way for the general public is to go to the waffle, which is those 9 dots that you see. It is something that's very common for Google to access anything that's related to Google, and that's where you'll find Google Classroom. Now, our students get to Google Classroom a slightly different way. And one of those ways is through Clever, which I'm going to show shortly. But once we're into a Google Classroom, there's different things that we do at the beginning of year. So when kids log in, the first thing they do is they join the class that they belong to. In the past, what we used to do is we actually had the kids join our class by clicking on the plus sign, joining a class, and the teacher actually gave them an individual code for them to log into their Google Classroom. Now it's slightly different. Now teachers are going to start sharing a link, and it'll take them directly to their classroom. And that's important because whenever they have to go to a different class, or maybe this upcoming year we have new classes, teachers are going to share this link directly to the students. Students will click on that link and they'll have access directly to the Google Classroom for that particular class. As I mentioned before, our students in our district use a platform called Clever, which is a single sign-on. It allows them to actually sign in that one time, and it signs them into all the platforms that we use in our district. Just so you know, even though we push all of our assignments in Google Classroom, some of those assignments do require students to go into different platforms. An example here would be Freckle for Freckle Math, or Freckle ELA, Freckle Science. There's different topics within that one platform. So do know that kids are first going to go to Google Classroom, and then they're going to finish off their assignments based on what the teacher has assigned. All right, once we're into a Google Classroom, you'll see a page and our dashboard looking like this. The initial page is very similar to this. Now, the only difference is that your child may only have one class, maybe 2, but if they're in the middle school, they may have up to 8 classes. It just depends on whether they're attending after school or they're doing something for extracurricular where they have a Google Classroom in there. But I'd like to point out that in this homepage, you'll have a few options here. You have the main menus. I refer to this as the hamburger icon, right? There's 3 bars that allows you to navigate to the different tools in Google Classroom. There's the to-do button. Students also have a calendar. However, we don't necessarily use the calendar because most of our assignments are directly in Google Classroom. You also see our plus sign. Again, it's to join a class. It's to just join a class, in this case as a child. And again, we have our other settings in Google. This actually takes us to the other Google products. We want to stay in this area where our classes are in. And I'm going to actually go to a Google Classroom soon so that you can see what that looks like and how to get into each of those classes. Previously, I had shown something, an icon, or actually the words to do. This is important for students, mainly because this is where they'll have all of their upcoming assignments. And it's a quick check of what is due now, what is due this week, what is due in the future, like next week or later, or something that doesn't have a due date. So you'll see there, it automatically defaults to this week. I'm logged into this classroom where you'll have a teacher's name right here. You'll also have when it's due and the time that it's due. So I only have 2 assignments due for this week, but there's 7 assignments that don't have a due date, which means that the teacher could have possibly assigned this as a project that could extend to possibly 2 weeks, 3 weeks. It could also be an ongoing project that will last the entire semester or the entire year, like a journal, for example, something that I can continue using on a daily basis. So once we go into the live classroom, I'll be able to toggle back and forth on these 3 different areas, which is assigned, missing, and done. So when we go to our Google Classroom, once you're inside of a class, there's some important information that you should know to help your child. First of all, our stream, our students are very familiar with our stream. It's where our teachers make announcements. Anything that's coming up this week, any changes to maybe their Zoom. Sometimes we've had issues with our Zoom links. So what teachers do is they post a message on stream and say, hey, we're going to change our Zoom to this is the new link. So those are the different things that we can possibly share out. We could also share some information like, we have an assembly coming up this week or things that are important. Normally where you're going to find assignments for the day, for the week, or for the future, it's going to be in Classwork. And this is where you'll find a lot of the asynchronous assignments. And again, just as a reminder, an asynchronous assignment is something that is done on their time. And again, they'll have the entire day to work on those assignments. People, just for you to know, is really where you're going to find who are their classmates. Nothing we can do in there other than just see who's in the class and jump back to Classwork, where we're going to spend most of our time sharing information. So looking at assignments, when you click on a particular assignment, you'll have a few things. So I'm showing you an example here where there's an assignment that's called 8 Parts of Speech that's due or was due November 9th. When you actually click on that assignment, you'll see this pop up, which is a clip or at least an image of what it is. And in this case, it happens to be a Google drawing that students have to fill out. When we click on View Assignment, it actually takes us into our next window and says this, all right, well, Marco, you have this one missing, so you definitely want to do this or turn it in. And I actually have to click on that assignment once again, make sure I complete it, and come back to Google Classroom and actually turn it in. So this is what I mentioned earlier, that we have a lot of students that complete the assignment, but it takes them somewhere else to complete that assignment. They never come back and turn it in. So technically, they did not finish that assignment because Google doesn't recognize whether they finished or not, unless the child clicks on the turn in button. Another thing that has come up a lot as well is that students say that they click on that assignment and for some reason, this image goes away, and it does happen. So just keep in mind that any assignment that is assigned by the teachers will always exist in their Google Class folder. In this folder, we'll be able to access any assignment that was assigned by the teacher, and all of their work is saved there. So let me step out of the presentation and go into an actual Google Classroom. As you can see, I belong to several classes, but I want to show you what it looks like as a student. And this is my main dashboard where you'll see either one class or multiple classes. The to-do button, as I mentioned before, allows me to get an idea of what's due this week. This is very important for our middle school students because it actually gives you all the assignments you have for the week for all of your classes. I don't have to actually click on every class to look at what's due this week. I can actually just click on to do, and it takes me to all of my classes, or I can navigate to the different classes I belong to. If I want to just focus on one, then I can do that. And as I mentioned before, the no due date, I may have some that it's just like a graphic organizer, something that I'm going to use in the classroom daily. So it's there for me to use at any time. You'll also see these drop-down arrows opens up what I need to do. And if you happen to have an icon that says view all, it lets you see everything that's due for this week. Next week, I only have one assignment, woohoo, but that's definitely going to change next week, right? And as a matter of fact, well, next week is our break, so we wouldn't have technically an assignment, so that will probably be changed for the following week. And again, you also have some later assignments that are due. Again, maybe some projects, something that will take multiple weeks to get done. So what we can do is this. If I go back to the to-do, I also have these icons right here, which is missing and done. This actually narrows it down to the ones that I have missing. And as a parent, this helps because I can tell my child, hey, go to your missing assignments and let's do these one at a time, especially the ones that have been, you haven't turned in a long time. So talk to your teachers about this. It's something that they've accepted. They accept some of those assignments, or if not all. And also, you may want to look at, what has been done. So you'll see the difference between missing and done. Again, it'll say whether it's turned in or not. Now, if you want to know for sure that they've done it, you can actually click on the assignment and it'll take you to find out whether or not it's done. So as I mentioned before, I was going to actually click on a classroom. I'm going to go ahead and click on Mrs. Puentes. She's a teacher at Desert Garden. I'm in her classroom as a student right now. So I'm going to go to the stream. Notice that she has a quiz already available for us that we're going to take hopefully soon, right? It's coming up. It's something that's very important. It's the only thing you'll see here because that's what she wants to announce to her kids. But when I go to Classwork, this is what I see. You'll notice how these are, the assignments are actually listed by dates. And what we can do is look at all the assignments that are due. A lot of our teachers do a really good job at naming these on what days they are, right? These are due for Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and so on and so forth. If I go to this icon right here, it actually lets me see more detailed work into my assignments, specifically for me, as well as the entire class. But this really informs me of what I have missing or what I have assigned that I have to do. As you can see, I have a lot of assignments missing. Now, I can actually go, I can narrow it down only to the missing assignments. If I look at the missing assignments, I can take a look at, let's say this one, for example. I can see how I have from 11/17, Tuesday, I already have that one missing. It was due on the 17th, so I should probably get it done. These are all the ones that are assigned, meaning that, not only is it missing, it's also the ones that I have to do. Here's another one that we actually sometimes miss, and it's a returned assignment. Why is this one important? Well, sometimes we submit an assignment by accident, or maybe we just submit it, but it was blank. It didn't have any information. I'll give you an example. Let's say a teacher asked me to create a presentation about my family, and I turned in a presentation that has no pictures, no information whatsoever, but I still turn it in. Well, the teacher most likely will return that assignment and give me a note telling me that I need to complete it. So that assignment will be returned and I would have to complete that. So going back to the actual class, I'll go to Classwork. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you what it looks like on a assignment. For example, Monday's assignment. You'll see how I already have it missing because I didn't click on the assignment. And what our teachers have done, or at least some of them have done, is they gave them a list of things that need to be done for that Monday. And in this case, it's a slide deck, which tells me, okay, Marco, you need to do some reading for 20 minutes. You need to work on some Freckle math. Again, I have to go outside on my Clever account and find Freckle. I also have to look at Think Central, look at this lesson that's been assigned to me. And again, everything is listed in our Google Classroom. And I have a feature here where I can actually start checking off what I've done. These are from the instructions of the teacher. As I'm completing my assignment, I start checking them off, and I can say, man, I'm done. I'm good, right? Well, actually, I'm still not done because technically I've done everything, but I still have one more thing to do. And that is, just as a reminder, I have to actually mark this as done, right? Google doesn't know. It will show up that I turned it in late. On an assignment that is not missing, it'll just say turn in. I'll mark it as done. Teacher will know that I've submitted it. I could also make a comment to the teacher and say, hey, you know what? I just realized that I did not submit it, and send it directly, a private message to the teacher. We'll see how the assignments, if I go to something that's not due today, for example, I have a lot of these missing, so I'll come back to another assignment. And again, I can toggle back and forth to my classroom, to the stream. Again, I mentioned earlier about people, how I can send. Do know that I can't send emails within our classes. I can only send to my teachers. And in this case, there are 3 teachers, which is our principal, my main teacher, and maybe either an assistant or someone that's co-teaching with our teacher. On our stream, you have a couple of things that I didn't mention earlier, and that was something that's already coming up. So it can help us look at a time frame. It jumps us directly to that to-do list of what I need to do right away. So going back to my Google Classroom, coming back to here, we'll see how we'll have a lot of our assignments by date, by day, and they have some icons right next to them. It kind of gives you an idea. The teacher usually informs the child of what these icons represent. Sometimes they represent the different types of assignments. They could represent you know, something that might be due on a specific day. Maybe she uses this icon for Mondays, this icon for Tuesdays, and not even talking to the teacher. I'm assuming that's what it is. So our topics, let's say that I'd like to actually go to maybe some information from the classroom. For example, our Zoom meeting. Here's something that she assigned earlier this year. But remember that our topics are always going to be the most current at the very top. So I mentioned right before jumping into our Google Classroom that all of our assignments, as long as I click on them, they belong in our Google Drive folder, which is right here. If I click on that Google Class folder, it'll take me directly to the assignments that I have actually clicked on. And as you can see, I've only clicked on 2 assignments today. And I can always go back and edit these assignments. And as you know, because we're using Google, it keeps track of everything that we do. So our teachers will know if I've made changes recently. So an example here would be that I started working on this earlier today, but if the teacher decides to check what time I started working on it, she has access to that. She has access to what I've changed, more or less on the time frames. But most importantly, did I do anything with this page? Again, I forgot to actually move my check marks because I did read, I did do the math. I did go into my Google Classroom and finish this assignment, and I did all of these things. It's just for us to self-check on this particular assignment. And if I close it, it automatically saves. That's the power and benefit of doing it in Google Classroom with the Google tools. This is the same assignment that I just opened up earlier, and those changes that I had done already appear. You'll see some of the check marks that I moved or not. And again, I'll close, and it'll always belong in this folder. I do have multiple classes, so when kids navigate to their Google Drive, you'll be able to access all files that are in Google. But I'm going to come back to our Google Classroom because I want to focus on how can we help our kids. And one more time, main place you can actually check in with your kids is looking at view your work. That way you can see everything that's assigned, returned, missing. Or if you go to your main Google Class page, you can click on the to do. I know we have a few questions before I come back to our presentation, and I want to go ahead and answer those now. So, Mr. Amador?
Yes, Mr. Arellano.
Are there any questions?
Yes, we have one. There is a parent asking if it's possible to have both of her kids' Google Classrooms in her mobile device.
Yes. So the way you do that is, well, as a parent, getting that information, and then that's where we're going to have some clarification on those questions. You can always reach out to us to get more clarification on that. But you can have multiple classes. Again, as a student, I can have multiple classes in a mobile device. I can have multiple classes. It looks the same if I'm logged in as a student. Obviously, as a parent, I don't have access to this. It's only for students. Now, on a mobile device, obviously, it's going to be a little trickier to navigate through things, but you'll still have your classes in order, and I believe they're in vertical format. What parents do get is a report of what their kids have done or not done. And that is a session that actually we're going to have tomorrow, if I'm not mistaken, where they're going to talk about Google Guardian. And those are the reports that parents receive either on a weekly basis or on a daily basis, depending on what you select. But again, there's going to be more details on that on our next session tomorrow.
Okay, at the moment,
any other questions?
Sorry, at the moment, no further questions.
Okay, so I'm gonna end with thanking everyone for being here today. Hopefully this information is useful for you to guide your children, keeping up with those missing assignments. Also keep in mind that a lot of the times our kids are doing the work, they just happen to forget to do that additional step. So always remind them to make sure they submit those assignments. I have to do that almost daily with my kids. just like Mr. Ramayor was mentioning earlier today, with our kids, we have to be on top of them. Like, for example, with my daughter, I actually have to check in with her, making sure that she submitted those assignments, because she shows me that she's done them, but for some reason, she tends to forget that she submitted them. I don't know if that's something that middle schoolers are going through and they forget all the time, but it's something that I do daily. So if there are no further questions, thank you once again. And Mr. Romayor is going to come over to share some information with you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Arellano, and thank you again, Mr. Amador, for your excellent explanation. The comments on the YouTube stream are giving you thanks and kudos for presenting your information clearly and in an easy way for them to follow. As Mr. Arellano was explaining, and just give me a quick second here to bring up the image that I want to share with the folks that are on the stream. Thank you. And bring it up on the screen, is that we're trying to share with our entire community is that we have a dedicated office, which is the Parent and Community Engagement Center. And at the helm there is the principal is Miss Esther Green. Her and her help there and the staff there is able to provide different resources and virtual trainings. So please provide feedback. Their phone number is up on the screen. They also have a dedicated website where they're adding content, inviting you to trainings, things like that. But they're there to help you navigate these this virtual circumstance that we're in. So again, thank you again, Mr. Arellano, Mr. Amador. We'll finish right now as we get ready for our 6 o'clock Spanish session. Have a great evening, everyone.